Yahweh Malakawalam. That is Father Yah, King everlasting, King of this universe. We come to you now, Abba Yah, as your humbled servants, endeavoring, Abba Yah, with our whole heart, with our whole soul, with all our might, to serve you, Abba Yah, in truth. And we just give you thanks, Abba Yah, Toda Reba Abba, for how you bless and keep us day to day, hour to hour, Shabbat to Shabbat, feast day to feast day, year in and year out. Hallelujah, hallelujah. And we thank you, Abba Yah, for always blessing us with everything that we could possibly need. Things that we acknowledge, Abba Yah, and see and understand, and also the things, Abba Yah, that you do for us that we don't even know about. We thank you, Abba Yah, for your loving kindness and your mercy and grace that you bestow upon your children. And Abba Yah, if we have gained any favor from you, we just ask, Abba Yah, that you continue to extend your grace and your mercy, even to those, our brothers and sisters, your Yaladim, Abba Yah, that are still walking in darkness, Abba Yah, but have a zeal to serve you, just not with knowledge, Abba Yah. We just ask, Abba Yah, if you will continue to extend your grace and mercy upon them and allow us to be a light, Abba Yah, unto your kingdom, unto your majesty. Please, Abba Yah, forgive our forefathers for walking away from you and transgressing and trespassing against you, Abba Yah. And the same for us, Abba Yah, as we grow and we learn about our transgressions, our iniquity, that we shub, Abba Yah, that we turn away from the wickedness, and that you will forgive us, Abba Yah, and blot it out of your memory. And we ask, Abba Yah, that you be merciful when you judge us for our transgressions. Continue to wash us, Abba Yah, with your word. Continue to shape us and mold us into vessels of your will, vessels of honor, Abba Yah, that reflect you, that bring praise, honor, and esteem to your name. And as we go into this Shabbat, Abba Yah, we say Toda Reba, for setting this day apart, hallowing this day, that we can shed off our cares, our concerns, our work, and just be refreshed, Abba Yah, and rest on this day as you commanded it. We ask, Abba Yah, that you inspire these lessons. Allow the culture to wash us, Abba Yah, that we can appreciate the heritage that you gave to us. Inspire Moreh Samak, Abba Yah, and anyone who edifies your word. Allow your message to come through crisp and clear, Abba Yah, and hit its target. Allow us to receive it, Abba Yah, that we can walk in truth and love and appreciation for who we are and whose we are. And in all things, Abba Yah, Tov and Ra, good and bad, we say Toda Reba Abba. Blessed are you, Yahweh. Blessed is your name, Yahweh. And blessed is he that comes in your name. In the name of your only begotten Son, and the character and the authority of your only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai Mashiach, we say Aman and Aman. All right, Mr. Ka, this is the cultural and language portion of the service. Welcome. Thank you for being here. We're going to shift gears a little bit in the cultural study. Now that we've labored through the foundation of culture and language, our culture and our language, First, I want to say Toda Rabah for you Talmudini Brit, you Hebrew students who participated. I know how dry and bland that portion was at times. So halal yah that we labored through. And I pray that our labors produce tov meod fruit, very good fruit, as we journey forward in this cultural and language, trying to return back to the Father in truth. And as we go forward in our precious culture and heritage that the Most High blessed us with. And having said that, going forward in the language and culture studies, we're going to examine the Aleph Bet according to the culture. And we're going to stay in Hasafah Bereshit. That's the book of Bereshit, Genesis, for a while, for quite a while. Bereshit is foundational. This is where our history begins. This is the beginning of our language, and ultimately it's the root of our culture. And you'll discover, if you haven't already, that from creation up to the flood and through Shemot, we, Yisrael, were the lump of coal. If you can get this metaphor, this picture in your head, we were that lump of coal being subject to tremendous pressure until the Most High was ready to extract us as his precious jewel, like a diamond is created through tremendous pressure, and it becomes a diamond, a precious jewel. So let's dig in. Let's get into the Aleph Bet. And then while I pull that up, let me share screen here. Can y'all see that? Is that big enough?
Con.
Hello, yeah. All right, so for most of us, this is going to be a review. So those that have already learned the Aleph Bet, those that have already started practicing pronouncing the Aleph Bet, this is just going to be a review. So just use this time for more practice. And by all means, ask questions, especially for those that are kind of new to this study. Ask questions. If you don't understand, and we move on to the next module, the next section, you're going to fall behind, further and further behind, if you don't get clarity. Now remember, we're on this journey together. And just to be transparent, you know, I can read Hebrew script, I can research Hebrew script, but in no way do I speak Hebrew. I'm not fluent in the language of Hebrew yet, and we're laboring to get there. And then one last note, what we're learning is biblical Hebrew, also known as modern Hebrew. This Hebrew is not what is spoken in the land. I want you to be clear on that. What we're learning is not the Hebrew that they speak over in Israel right now. It is Hebrew, and those people in the land will understand us. They will understand us if we speak this dialect, this era of Hebrew, this biblical Hebrew. They will understand us, but it will be like us speaking to each other in Old English, you know, that the authorized version, the King James Version Bible is written in, you know, with the thous and the thy and whence and wherefore to. If we spoke to each other like that, that would be equivalent to us using this Hebrew to speak to those Hebrew speakers that are in the land right now. I just want to make that clear. It is Hebrew, but it's not the same dialect of Hebrew that they use over in the land right now. All right, so we're going to start off with this Aleph, and I'm going to go all the way back. Can you see where my hand is pointing?
Okay.
All right, this is what we call pictograph. This is a pictograph of what we know today as the Aleph, the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Now this letter, this pictograph, has a numerical value associated with it also. And all the alphabet, and we'll get to the modern here, but all of the alphabet has a numerical value, and it also has a negative or a positive force with it. It could either be negative or it could be positive. That's important to remember. Now, originally, like I said, it's a pictograph of an ox's head. We can see that, an ox's head. The ox is very, very vital to our culture. It's significant in our culture. And you'll see that here soon. This pictograph probably was not even called Aleph. When we were using this writing system, it probably was not even called Aleph. As a matter of fact, when our ancients saw it, it probably was just referred to as A, or you see here they got L or Al, A-L. Now, between the 5th and the 10th centuries AD, the Masoretes developed what we call today the Nukud vowel point system. That's what we're using today. And it was developed so that everybody reading scripture in the Masoretic community would pronounce those words the same way. Some people were, coming from the oral tradition, some people pronounce words differently. So what the Masoretes did through this 5th and 10th century is develop what we know today as the Nukud system, the vowel point system. And that was so that everybody in that community, the Masoretic community, would be speaking these words from the biblical scrolls the same way, so that there would be no confusion when whoever stood up to read out of the script, everybody would pronounce it the same way. I hope I was clear on that. And it's during this time, between the 5th and the 10th centuries, probably when that Aleph, when that ox's head became known as Aleph or Aleph. During this 5th and 10th century, when the Masoretes developed that vowel point system, is probably when the ox head became known as Aleph. Also during this period is when the Aleph lost its vocal value without a Nukud attached to it. So before then, the Aleph, the ox's head, had a vocal value. And like I said, it was either probably A or Al or L. If you want to know more about the Masoretes, just let me know and I'll put together a class on the Masoretes. So now let's look at Aleph from a cultural standpoint. The cultural Aleph. So what does the ancient Hebrew understand about the consonant Aleph, the ox head? And as stated, the Aleph represents that head of an ox. And notice that the pictograph is just the ox head. It's not the whole body. There are other pictographs that do depict the whole body, like the hay, the whole body. It's a picture of a stick figure, a whole stick figure with arms, head, legs, and a body with the hands raised. And the same thing with the mem, where it looks like the man is praying. It looks like somebody kneeling down praying, the whole body. So just take note of that. It's not accidental that it's just the head depicted. That's the point I want to make. It's commonly referred to as an ox head, but really it's any male of the typical Hebrew cattle. So we had cows, we had oxen, we had sheep, we had goats. So that Aleph, that ox head right here, could be either of those. A ram from the sheep, or a he-goat from the goats, or a bull from the cows. And not just a male of the cattle, but a fully grown male. That's what that pictograph represents. This Aleph has become wise with experience. This is cultural. This is what our ancestors understood when they saw this pictograph. This Aleph has become wise in experience. This Aleph has become loyal to his owner or his master. And this Aleph has become the leader of the flock, the chief of the herd, so to speak. So now let's look at how culturally significant the ox was to the ancient ancestors. Culturally, the ox was as vital to our ancestors as a tractor is to a modern day farmer. Remember, we're agricultural people. The ox was as vital as a car is or a truck is to us in these times, to the family. That's how vital an ox was. The ox was used for many laborious tasks, hard tasks. The ox was used to pull the plow for breaking up ground to sow seed. The ox was taught to plow straight roads so that eventually all the plowman had to do was to control when the ox went and when the ox stopped. The ox eventually was trained to know how to plow a straight road, no matter how long that road was. The ox was used to tread wheat, because if you know anything about the ancients and treading wheat, that big tread stone was huge. It was huge. It probably weighed close to a ton. And they hitched the ox to that to pull it around and tread the wheat, crush the wheat. This is significant. A young ox would be yoked to the Aleph, the older ox, the more experienced ox, to be taught how to plow straight, to be taught how to tread wheat, and so forth. All the tasks that we used an ox for. The young ox would be yoked to that older ox so that he would learn how to do the job of that older ox. In other words, to impart wisdom to the younger ox. The ox was also culturally significant that we see the ox throughout Torah and Tanakh. In other words, there are laws concerning the ox. That's how important the ox was in our culture. So when we think about the Aleph and all the alphabet for that matter, we can see from a cultural perspective that it is much, much more than just letters and sounds. And I'll make one last point and then we can get to reading practice. I know that's what y'all here for, to practice the reading, learn how to read the Hebrew. When our ancestors saw the ox head written, it was concrete. You heard Maurice Samak say over and over, he emphasizes that a lot, that the Hebrew language is a concrete language. There's not a lot of room for abstract thought when you read Hebrew. What our ancestors saw when they saw this picto, and the reason why I'm making this, emphasizing the picto, is because by the time we got to this modern Aleph, the attributes of the picto probably are lost. It's not seen as culturally significant. And we'll go over that in a later module also. That's why I'm emphasizing this Aleph. When our ancient ancestors saw this picto, what they saw was concrete. And first and foremost, what they saw was strength and wisdom of a man or a thing. But initially, the strength and the wisdom of a man. Then everything that could be attributed to strength and wisdom came from that concrete understanding of this ox head, how important that ox was, all the attributes of that ox, the wisdom, the loyalty. We demonstrated that during the foundational portion of the culture and the language study with the father. That's that Aleph and that Bet. We'll get into the Bet probably next week. That's the Aleph and the Bet together in that order. And we get the sound Ab, or in some dialects, Abba. You hear us say Abba Yah. Where the Aleph represents the strength, the wisdom, the knowledge, the authority, the chief. And then the Bet is a tent or a house. So when it's put together in that order, we get strength of the house, or strength of the tent, or wisdom of the tent, or loyalty of the tent, the chief of the tent. The ox and the tent paired together, we can concretely see and understand it to be the strength, the wisdom, the chief, the loyalty within the tent. And finally, it's important to understand that strength is not necessarily physical strength. Strength is also recognized as strength in presence, your reputation, your shem, your name. It is strength in responsibility. Are you handling your responsibilities? The strength in you being able to handle your responsibility. And in authority. Are you an authority figure in your tent? So in essence, that Aleph, that ox head, is a pillar in the tent, the house, the community, and the nation overall. Are there any questions before we go on to the reading practice? Any questions or comments at all?
No, Michael has his hand up.
Okay, Aki, Michael, the floor is yours.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom, shalom.
I'm just trying to understand that right here, like I guess in my mind, when I hear like alphabet, I'm trying to understand like where it says early. That column here that you kind of look like you're going to probably write right there. If you were to work down, let's just say, for example, you worked down. Mm-hmm. Are you actually saying like, are these what will be considered the alphabet? You kind of know what I'm saying? Because when I hear the word alph, like what you just said, alphabet.
Alphabet.
I keep alphabet. I keep thinking, my mind keep going back like to alphabet. You like A, B, C, D, E. So I'm just trying to get an understanding now, just the way I process things and learn. Is this what each of these are going to be considered as, but instead of it being just a letter, it's going to make up a word also?
Khan, I think I understand your picture. I mean, your question.
Because
so what you're looking at now in the early is not the alphabet. It's not the alphabet. It's the pictograph. It's the pictograph. And what you see over here, follow my hand. What you see over here turned into Aleph bet. And then if you keep going over here, this turned into alphabet.
Okay, and that's what I'm trying to understand. So when you're talking about the ox head, and then when we go back into this modern Hebrew portion where it looks like that's to me where it says letter and N. So, and then you go over to the A in the Greek, that would be like, just as an example, the letter A, the way my mind is kind of indoctrinated to think. Is that what you're saying? Okay,
exactly.
I got you now. Okay, because I wasn't understanding the whole makeup of the chart. So now I got you. Okay, I'm better. Thank you so much.
All praises, all praises. And
Yep.
so what you'll see really, this is from here all the way to here is what we call language evolution. This is language evolution, and it's not important to remember, but since you brought it up, that's what it's called.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
From here, the earliest until what we have modern is called a language evolution. These letters, this pictograph turned into that symbol, turned into that symbol, turned into this letter consonant to this letter consonant, which is a Greek word, alphabet, because the first letter in the Greek lettering system is alpha. So that's why we're calling it alphabet instead of Aleph bet. And Aleph bet, our ancestors never said that either. You understand what I'm saying? But just so everybody can understand what's going on, since modernly we call this the alphabet, we term our lettering system Aleph bet modernly. But our ancients never said Aleph bet. This is our Aleph bet. I hope you understand that.
Can I add a quick point, Zaqan?
Khan, Moray.
And just so you know, the ancients going back to Moses, and then the question that you asked, the only thing that you would see them writing in would have been the early or the middle. The late is not what Moses or any of the ancient Hebrews wrote in. They actually wrote in the early and the middle. So the early is like the pictograph. It's the picture that is utilized to represent the alphabet. So the middle is what they call Paleo, commonly called the ancient Hebrew. So that's what the Torah or was originally written in. The tables of stone, when Moses and them were writing, they were writing in that ancient form back to Moses. Now, as times get forward to the book of Ezra and things like that, that's more of the time period when some of the modern script came in, because when they went through captivities, they adopted what's called the late script, which is what we're using today, which we call the modern Hebrew. But what our forefathers, the ancient forefathers, would have written in would have been what's considered the early or the middle script, more so the middle, but they communicated through code and pictures through the picto. So I yield.
Toda, Moray, Toda. And I need to, I want to add to that too also. And the reason why I'm starting here in this early, in the picto, is so that we can truly culturally understand what it meant to our people in our culture. Because as this evolved into this, when we see this now, this is just a letter. You know, most of the modern Hebrew speakers now don't really relate this unless they're in a biblical situation, but they don't relate this to the strength, the wisdom, the chief. All they see now is Aleph. You know, just like we see A, like when we were growing up, we were taught A as in apple, B as in boy, C as in cat. But when we look at it now, we don't say A as in apple, B as in cat. You know what I mean? We just know it's an A. So that's why I started here, so that we get the cultural aspect of how our language is used. It's not used like this modern language. We understand it. Like I said, if we spoke this language in the land, we're speaking Hebrew, but it is what they're speaking is already an evolution from that. It would be like us speaking in Shakespearean language if we spoke this particular Hebrew to them. But what I wanted to do is to ground it in our cultural beginnings. This is what the Aleph meant to our ancients. So when they saw this, it was concrete. Nowadays, if they see this and use this, it's not necessarily concrete. It can be just as abstract as our American language, our English language. But this and this, the early and the middle, is definitely concrete. And if we want to understand the truth of our ancestors, we need to be concretely founded in the language, so that there's no abstract and pardon the way I'm putting it, no abstract distractions. We will know the truth. We will know the concrete meaning of what our ancestors are saying, because this is how they communicated in writing. If there are no more questions, I'll move on. If you have questions after service today, I can stay on and I can try and answer those questions after service, but we got to move on in this time slot. I'll take one more question if you got a question before we get into the reading. All right, let me stop share for a minute and we'll get into our reading practice.
Uziel had a question.
Go ahead, Adon. Do I need to pull the chart back up?
Kane's okay.
All right, give me just a second. All right, floor is yours.
Shabbat shalom first and foremost.
Shabbat shalom.
Now when you were going over the alphabet, are you going to, I guess each week, as you stated earlier before we started, are you going to go through each one of these as you did with Aleph?
Khan, but it won't be as in depth. It won't be as in depth as of what I'm going today. What I'm trying to do is impress the cultural aspect of the language, of the letters. That's what I'm trying to impress today. So next week we'll just breeze through probably about 4 or 5 of the alphabet, and I'm just going to refer to the early, but we're going to pretty much concentrate on what we're using today, if that makes sense. I hope that answered the question.
Okay. And I was going to say, where can I find, like, I guess the Nakud chart, like, you know, the rule for the Nakud, where can I find that at?
We sent that out. There's a sheet that Moray would like for us to use, and we put that out via email, and I think I have it on those Google Docs. If not, just let me know, and I'll try and email what Moray is teaching from. All right.
He responded in Messenger, Kane.
Oh, okay, Kane. All right, now we'll get into some reading practice, and then and we'll conclude. Let me share screen again. And I apologize, Ms. Picard, no excuses, but I just got a new computer. And so some of the files on my old computer didn't transfer to this computer. This is what we're gonna have to use this week for our Hebrew reading. Can y'all see that?
Kane.
All right, hallelujah.
Okay.
All right, so we'll take volunteers up front, and remember what I said, participation is key. You got to get the practice in your mouth muscles, your tongue, your throat, your diaphragm, in order to really use the language. So you need to practice. You need to, if you're not going to do it away from these Shabbat studies with a friend or in a mirror or whatever, then definitely during the Shabbat, when we do the cultural language, you need to participate and practice these words. Nobody's going to laugh at you. Nobody is going to, look down on you. This is all practice. We're all crawling and growing together. So we're going to start off with better sheet, Achad, and better sheet 1. All right. And so in English, well, I'll just pull it up. You'll see. So here, you can see the English. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and we know Hebrew, we read from right to left. Now, Uziel, you know about the Nakud, you just don't have a copy of it.
It's okay. Other than what me and Maury Samat was going over, no, sir.
Okay, Ken. All right, so we read from right to left, and then these dots and dashes are the Nakud. Now, we've been in this practice, in this study for quite a while now. So a lot of the students in this study already understand the Nakud and how each of these consonants sound with the Nakud. So I'll take the first volunteer. And can somebody point out who was first in their hand raised?
It appears to be Miss Marsha seemed to have her hand up first from what I can see.
Khan. Koti, Marsha, Shabbat Shalom, floor is yours.
Shabbat Shalom. I think Bereshit, Bara, Elohim, Et, Hashemayim, Wa'et, Haaretz.
Try that one more time.
Haaretz.
There you go. Khan, Tov job. So here, the better sheet, you got that almost perfect. And then the bara, you see the vowel under the bet. And when we'll get into that syllabalizing these words, but that's its own syllable, ba, and then another syllable, ra, bara. You got Elohim, and then that Tisri is more of a like a sound, so it'd be eight, and then you got Hashamayim, Hashamayim, Hashamayim. See, all those they're syllabatized. So Hashamayim, Hashamayim. And then always, and we'll get into it, this wa is a vocal wa if it begins at the beginning of a word. So you got the wa here with the shiwa, and that would be called a vocal shiwa because it begins the word. If the shiwa, that's the common rule, that's the basic rule. If that wa with the shiwa begins a word, it's a vocal shiwa. So it will be wa 8. And then like you had here, haaretz. Good job. We'll go on to verse 2. Somebody had something to say in that one? I don't want to move on. All right, Tob job, Koti. I can see the practice. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Bayit Francis have their hand up, sir.
Khan. Bayit Francis, you take verse 2.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat
What a
Shalom.
great start to our Shabbat. This is amazing. Woo! Okay, first I want to give honor, praise, and esteem to the Most High Yah for our Shabbat, for our family. And I also want to acknowledge my each as my covering. Okay, let's get into it. All right. Okay. All right. Vaha'aretz Hayata Tohu Wa Bohu Wahoshek Al Paneh Tahom Varuach Elohim Merahafet Al Paneh Hamayim.
Tob job. Just a couple of points here. You see how Koti Bazian is saying va here, and in the modern that could be a wa or a va, and there is a particular difference when it has to be a va or a wa in modern. But for now, we're going to practice it either way, wa or va. All right. The other one you had was this merakafeth. So marachafet or feth. You hit that pretty much right on. You struggle with it a little bit, but just remember the syllabization, you know, and then run it together. Good job. Good job. And you see here how you got ru'ak. That's another rule that we'll get into, but you got the, remember, it's consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel, right? So you see how this is not, this patak is not under the kaf, the chet. It's kind of like off to the side. So it's coming off of that ru-ak, ru-ak. All right, because this is not really a vowel, or it's not considered like a vowel. So the vowel would actually fall right here, ru-ak. That makes sense? We'll get into a lot of those. We'll get into a lot of those rules the further we go along. So that's what I'm saying. If you don't understand, we'll get into these nakuds and then how they actually affect the pronunciation and when they're vocal and when they're not vocal. We'll get into all of that, but just to explain just a little bit how you get ruach out of that. All right, one more and then I'll close. Verse 4. I got a volunteer. Uh-oh, my computer is dragging. Give me a second.
Yes, my bot wants to read.
Come.
Okay, Wayara, Elohim, Et Haor, Ki Tob, Wayaba Dale, Elohim, Bain, Haor, Ubain, Hakoshek.
God, Tob job. And one thing you'll notice too is, you know, in our language, in Hebrew, we don't see capital letters and we don't see commas and periods and exclamation points. So the more we get into it, we'll see where that phrase or that the first phrase of a multi-phrase sentence where we would normally put a period or a comma or a colon or something like that. And so when we start to read it, we'll know where that particular phrase stops, and when the next particular phrase begins and stops. All right, good job, everybody. Good job, everybody. Now, everybody else has got to get in there too. We can't have the same volunteers every week. So get into the practice. And before I close, one thing I want to bring out. So homework. I want you to kind of research what are the three main Semitic or Shemitic, it's the same, just different pronunciation, coming from Shem languages of today. The three Semitic or Shemitic languages of today, the three main. And then the second part of your homework is, we just read Genesis, Bereshit, Akkad, 1 through 3, right? What language is that? Somebody key up and tell me, what language did we just read? Not a trick question.
Oh,
It's not a trick question. What language are we reading?
Hebrew.
Hebrew, Khan. Question, your homework is, who is the Hebrew speaking in Genesis? Who is the Hebrew? No answers today. I want you to look that up, think about it, and then next week we'll discuss who is the Hebrew speaking in Genesis in Bereshit. So, Tov reading, Todah for everybody, Halal Yah that we're dedicated, that we're working, that we're practicing. For those that are new or those that are really not into it that much yet, you gotta practice. You gotta write these letters out so you recognize them when you see them. And then those that already are familiar with the codes, you gotta practice them out loud. So your mouth, your tongue, your throat, your diaphragm gets exercised, trained in how to say these words, how to roll your R's like Bereshit, how to use the gutturals like het. It's not just het, it's het, the guttural. So you got to practice those out loud if you're going to be able to pronounce them properly. And like I said, Morey has already gave a Tob recipe. Write these words out 10 times a day, each letter. Write them out 10 times a day and say them as you're writing them. And then go into Bereshit, pull up the Hebrew and practice reading it. Practice reading it with the Nakud. And that's all I have for today. That's all I have for today. Like I said, next week, I just wanted to impress the cultural significance of our writing system, that our ancient ancestors and how it is culturally significant. It's not just a letter and it's not just a sound. That Aleph and that Bet together in that combination means something. And no matter how somebody tries to translate it that's not Hebrew, we will be able to see exactly what our ancestors are trying to impress by our written language. So if a non-Hebrew non-cultural Hebrew try and tells us what Abba means, if it don't line up with what the ancient says, then we're gonna have to question that. So that's why I'm starting us out with that Picto and then the early, and then going into the modern. Halal Yah, Shabbat Shalom.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. Great study today, Zaqan. If you don't mind, I would just like to give just a little supporting scripture to support something you're going into. But to my bot, to Bat Zion, y'all did an outstanding job. But I really want to say hallelujah, hallelujah. Gadar Okoti, Marsh, you did a fantastic job. That was amazing. I'm so encouraged. I was sitting here smiling. I mean, praise be to the Most High, praise be to the Most High. And I know that definitely gives me and both Zaqan encouragement when we see others who are embracing and trying to learn the language, So praise y'all. You did an outstanding job. I mean, I was amazed. So praise be to the Most High. But I know you keep hearing me as I can use terms such as concrete and things like that. So I just kind of want to real quickly show you why we're trying to go to some of these things. Is my screen, can you see my screen as I can?
Come on, Morey.
Okay, so we keep using about how Hebrew has a concrete and how not this Greco-Roman abstract way words are used. So when we're looking at something that's going to be concrete, it's going to be something that you can hear, you can touch, you can smell, you can identify, you can have an actual visual of it. So I'm just going to go to 1 Samuel. So when Zaqan was going into the Aleph and explaining exactly what the Aleph was, he was given the visual of how Hebrews actually, when they're hearing things or they're perceiving things, it's from something they can see and understand. So a strong leader, a strong father, and it's based upon, like he said, even when he gave how the strong ox, the older ox that's strong, he joins a younger ox to him so that the younger ox can learn its duty or learn its function to become that strong ox to carry on. That's the same thing like with us, with elders and a younger generation. The strong ox or the older ox is supposed to be bringing the younger ox along. That's the way Hebrews think about things. And this world has us thinking about things different. So I'm just going to go right to this one verse just to give you also just a view of Hebrew thought, just a little bit, so y'all can see what we're talking about abstract versus concrete. So I'm just going to verse 20 and 34. It says, so Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger. I just want to focus on these two words, in fierce anger. So the word here for fierce is going to be khori, which is burning anger. Fierce anger comes from 27:34, which is to glow, to grow warm, to anger. All right. And so then I want to go to the next word for verse 34 again, fierce anger. So and here we have af, and af is probably the nose or the nostril, hence the face. So when we talk about the nostril, we're seeing anger here in scriptures, but now it's like a fiery nostril, the fiery nostril. So when we are looking at a person's countenance, when a person's nose flares up and their countenance change, you can see that they're angry. So our face or our mannerism, our character says a lot about who we are and the action that we produce. So by his actions that he produced, that's why the Hebrew language is all about action. It's an action. So when we're looking at anger in English, it actually had nose in Hebrew, because when the nostrils flare up, you can tell that a person is upset or angry. So I just wanted to use that for us, how Hebrews thought about things, and everything that we're going into is trying to help us get back to thinking from a very concrete and a more serious, and not just taking this word lightly, like, oh, well, I believe in God. And, okay, but what are you showing to prove that you believe in the Most High? Like, do you understand that he is the strength of the house? So he gives us a foundation that we're supposed to follow. So praise be to the Most High, Zaqan. I think you did an outstanding job as you've been doing in this cultural portion. So all praise, honor, esteem be to the Most High as he continues to lead us back to his culture. Hallelujah. At this time, we get ready to move forward with the 2-minute warning. Adon Kanaka, I would yield the floor to you. But again, to the Hebrew readers, y'all do not understand how much y'all encourage me as I came, because y'all don't understand how it is when you're trying to present information and people have absolutely no interest or no participation. So this is definitely encouraging. So again, Akoti Marsha, Gadal, Akoti Marsha, great job, as I came, great job. And to all the readers, great, outstanding job. Hallelujah. So I will now yield the floor to Kanakia